What is up, CWC? It is Tuesday night, July 18th. This is the Casual Wrestling Show, the #1 rated pro wrestling podcast meant specifically for casual wrestling fans. I am NerdyD, and if you could do me a quick favor and take a second to hit the like button if you are on YouTube, or leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast network you listen to us on, that would be much appreciated. We have a lot of wrestling to talk about tonight. We need to file a missing persons report. I have some questions about Jey Uso, but first, let's get raw. So one of the better Monday Night Raws I can remember for a while. It's been a while since I had a Monday Night Raw 3 hours that just kind of flew by, and I enjoyed kind of every beat of the show. I don't know if that was because I was watching along with everybody in the Discord, and there was a lot of interaction going on, and it was fun, and it kind of kept it moving, or I don't know if it was just heading into SummerSlam, they're kind of getting this thing right. It feels like they're hitting the right beats heading into SummerSlam, and it feels like we're on the right track to have for the second year in a row, a big kind of epic feeling SummerSlam. But yeah, one of the better Monday Night Raws. We got what do we have? We had Gunther versus Riddle, which is setting up the Gunther versus Drew McIntyre situation nicely. We got a Viking match between for the Viking Raiders. That was interesting. Didn't love seeing Alpha Academy take a pin, but I think this is building towards something bigger, so I'm not going to jump to conclusions this week about what's going on in the Alpha Academy universe. Shayna versus Nikki. We got a squash match for Shayna. We got a pretty good promo by Ronda Rousey. I thought one of the better promos by Ronda Rousey, and I find that to be a little bit of an issue, because if Ronda's really on her way out, and all of a sudden she's cutting half-ass decent promos, and she's supposed to be putting Shayna over, I don't know that this is doing. I'm not getting the right message watching Shayna and Ronda right now, because what it exposed to me was it looked like, Ronda Rousey is better than Shayna Baszler, and what they're trying to sell to me is Shayna Baszler saying, I'm the better you. But if Shayna's going to be the better Ronda Rousey, she's going to have to get into the ring and be the better Ronda Rousey. We also got Shinsuke Nakamura threw a fit after Tommaso Ciampa got involved in his match. Shinsuke is the king of the love triangle right now. He's been in a bunch of different situations involving like 3 wrestlers. Last it was Bronson, Ricochet, and Shinsuke. Now they've inserted Tommaso Ciampa into that storyline because it seems like they needed to move on with Ricochet to Logan Paul. But let's talk about the best things. Let's talk about the things I really want to talk about from Monday Night Raw. The best things I saw this week that I really want to talk about from Monday Night Raw was starting with the Finn Balor and Seth Rollins promo that was strategically put behind the scenes in the back of the arena. And I'm going to explain why I like this so much. And I'm going to explain the thought process and the intelligence that went into this segment, because there was meaning to this. There was a deeper meaning to what they're doing with this segment. And it's sly. It has to be Triple H. This is clever. What they're doing here is this feud needed to remove Seth Rollins from the crowd. We had to remove Seth Rollins from, I don't want to say goofy, but there is a goofiness that comes along with Seth Rollins. And I've been a little bit down on Seth in the past couple of weeks, because I feel like ever since he's become a babyface, there's this weird hoopla from the crowd that he just relies on to kind of intimidate opposing wrestlers who are in the ring with him, right? It's look, the crowd loves me, they don't like you, how are you going to get over? And what it felt like in removing these guys from the ring and not allowing the crowd to sing, chant, cheer, do what they do, it put them face to face on a level playing field, both with a microphone and the ability to look each other in the eyes and say what they needed to say. And I think that exponentially improved my attitude going into their SummerSlam match. I think that I take this match much more serious. I still believe, I think like most people do, that coming out of this match, it's going to be Finn Balor beating Seth Rollins and Damian Priest cashing in. Now, I've seen some things tonight, and I've seen people talking that Dominik Mysterio's win kind of changes things up. I'm not going to jump on that train. I'm not jumping on the train that the Judgment Day, everybody needs to hold gold, because I do believe that after SummerSlam, everybody in the Judgment Day will be holding gold. The problem is Finn Balor will not be in the Judgment Day the Monday Night Raw post SummerSlam. That's my belief. That's what's happening. Is that when Damian Priest cashes in on Finn Balor to win the World Heavyweight Championship, the following Monday will be the last day that Finn Balor is a part of Judgment Day. But I liked the even playing field. It made Finn seem like a real threat to Seth Rollins. You didn't see the hoopla of the crowd. Still don't know what the fuck Seth Rollins is wearing half the time that he's on WWE television. But that's the same thing I say with Becky Lynch. They're just in their own world, doing their own thing. It's not for me. It is what it is. But I absolutely A+ on putting those guys backstage, giving those guys microphones, and just letting them cut a promo into each other's eyes without the singing of the oh. Like I went a couple weeks ago, I talked about it. I enjoy that part of wrestling, but I do understand also how it gets in the way of certain beats of storytelling. So this was strategic. This was perfect. I love what they did there. What else did we have? New tag team champions. I like this. I actually like this. I see what I'm starting to see the smoke get removed from some of these things coming out of WrestleMania and coming out of the events that were post WrestleMania. And I'm starting to see that it does look like Triple H may actually have a plan and a roadmap moving forward. Because it makes enough sense to me that you didn't want Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler dropping the tag team titles to Chelsea and Sonya Deville. That doesn't make sense. Can't do that. Can't build them up to be two big badasses and then have them lose the belts to the Karens. That doesn't work. So what they did is they transitioned, and this is a clever transition. You transition from Ronda and Shayna to Liv and Raquel, who are extremely credible threats for those two. It worked. Now, in a transition period, you can transition to Liv and Raquel dropping the belts to the Karens, as I call them, Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green. And Liv and Raquel don't take the same hit that Shayna and Ronda take by losing the belt to Chelsea and Sonya. It's not the same level of hit. It actually worked to build. They integrated that into the storyline to build towards what we all thought was going to be Raquel versus Rhea Ripley. Now appears to be Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley. And I'm not mad at that. I actually think from a logical standpoint, that makes sense. There's enough going on this card right now that we don't need Raquel versus Rhea. We don't need to stop the momentum of Raquel Rodriguez at this point. But Rhea Ripley needed a credible threat going into SummerSlam. Now, I'm not going to say it when you place betting odds on Rhea Ripley versus Liv Morgan. I get it. The gap is huge, but at least Liv Morgan presents a credible threat in most people's eyes as somebody who is worthy of stepping into the ring with Rhea Ripley. Because it was the thing I talked about for a long time was who was next for Rhea Ripley? Who do you feed to her next? You can't continue to just feed Natalya to her over and over and over again. And the talent gap between Rhea Ripley and everybody else on the roster is too big to just give her somebody new. So this worked. This actually was very smart on Triple H's part too. We thought originally we all thought it was going to be Raquel, but you separate, you get them out of the tag team division and you put Liv in this match. You have Liv lose. You have Rhea absolutely destroy Liv Morgan in this match. It should be a little bit uncomfortable, in fact. And when that's over, Liv can take, a few weeks off and we can start to get into this. We can start to see Raquel Rodriguez come in as the hero and kind of interact with Rhea Ripley a little bit and start to see the inner workings building towards something that ultimately should be probably your WrestleMania 40 match for the Women's World Heavyweight Championship. That all works. I like what they're doing here. I also think that going back to Chelsea and Sonia, after thinking about it a little bit, I kept saying, I don't love that they're your second best women's tag team. I think I've settled in on being okay with that. I have to come to grips with the fact that WWE is never going to place this high value on those titles. Those titles essentially are the lowest. I think if internally WWE's ranking all of their titles, that's the one that's on the bottom. It used to be 24/7. We throw that in the trash can. Now it's the women's tag team belts. And whether that's it's a victim of circumstance, one belt has to be viewed as the lowest on the totem pole. I think that's just the one it is. But I think that Sonya Deville and Chelsea Green can stabilize that division. I think they can bring a little bit of stability to a division that has essentially played hot potato with the titles. Originally it looked like we had a little bit of consistency with Damage Control. Then it just kind of went to shit. The titles bounced around a little bit to some mishmash tag teams. And here we are now. We're heading into SummerSlam. We have new tag team champions, women's tag team champions. And hopefully they can, kind of bring this division together to just bring, a little bit of cohesiveness. What is my ultimate dream? Let them hold these belts all the way to WrestleMania. That's not that unbelievable, right? It's what, like 4, 5, 6 premium live events that you can tell good stories with Chelsea and Sonya. They're funny enough and good enough in the ring that they can tell the story they need to tell. WrestleMania 40, figure out a way to re-sign Sasha Banks, figure out a way to re-sign Trinity, get them in the ring, have them re-win the tag team championship at WrestleMania 40. And I think that you could start to see a credibility within the women's tag team division. That's just me going out on a limb. I like that idea. What else happened? More Becky Lynch and Trish Stratus. I got a little bit, I don't know if this is a hot take, but I got a little bit of maybe just an opinion on this. I'm over it. They let the iron cool off on this. Too much of this WWE style kind of back and forth, wait for the premium live event style booking has led me to go, don't really care about this anymore. Like, Trish can only say the same thing so many times. Becky can only say the same thing so many times. Zoe Stark can only stand next to Trish Stratus so many times before I go, like, we're obviously just in holding for this third match between Becky and Trish Stratus. And I kind of, we know where this is headed. We know. So if you don't give me anything good, story is meat and potatoes. The meat is the premium live event. The potatoes are what happens in between those premium live events. If your potatoes taste like shit, I don't even want the meat. Don't even give me the meat. And so the potatoes in this story to me have been a little bit of bullshit. I haven't seen anything that has just knocked me off my feet. They came in hot. I thought Trish Stratus came in hot at the beginning of this story. And it's just been the same thing over and over and over. It's been slow fed to us. And I think we all know that we know what the end of this story is. We know this is Becky Lynch's triumphant victory and I think essentially supposed to, in the eyes of most people, ascend her to the conversation of greatest of all time. Because if she beats Trish Stratus, we have to start talking about Becky Lynch as the greatest of all time within the Wrestleverse. I'm not talking about outside when you really start to break things down, but within the hierarchy of storytelling and what we'll call it the storyverse. Within the storyverse, I think this ascends Becky Lynch to a level where you can do interesting things with her because she will start to claim she's the GOAT. But here's the problem. Step outside the storyverse with me for a minute, guys. And answer this question for me, like legitimately. And when I say this is a little bit of an overreaction, but I want a truthful answer. Is Becky Lynch still over with the crowd? And how over is she? Like, I know Becky's always going to get the Becky pop, but post WrestleMania, is Becky Lynch still on that level and that run that she was on. Like Becky was possibly, I think around, not this time last year, a little before this time last year, Becky Lynch, you could have made the argument, was top 3 biggest name in WWE. Right now, I don't know that for sure she's top 10. If I start naming names, if I do a power 10 and I take out all the rules and I allow tag teams and I allow men and I allow women, I don't know that Becky's top 10 right now. I don't think so. I really don't. Maybe it may be fun to do. Maybe we'll do it next week. But I don't know that Becky's top 10. Last thing we'll talk about Monday Night Raw here. So Cody Rhodes, Brock Lesnar do their thing. Another meat and potatoes type situation for me where we know where this is headed. Brock is not going to give you a lot in between premium live events. So you rely on Cody Rhodes to come out week after week and cut promo after promo. And you start to hear a lot of the IWC go, I don't like Cody. He's doing the same thing over and over. And I get it. I fully understand the sentiment. I like to dig deeper into this and go, it's not Cody's fault. When you get paired up with Brock Lesnar, you know you're going to do the heavy lifting of the potato portion of the story. You're going to cover, from premium live event to premium live event. That's your job to sell the story. Brock's going to come out and kick your ass a couple times. And then, when you get to the premium live event, he's either going to put you over or he's going to smash your ass. It's one or the other. And it looks like for this, more than likely, this is Cody going over. But I find something interesting. And I saw the Discord kind of, tackle this a little bit and go, there's no stipulation for the rubber match. I think we're jumping to conclusions here. I think that the what they have to do when you're doing a story with Brock Lesnar, you got to drip feed it, because if you give it to me all at once, there's nothing to do next week. And we're right around the corner, but there's still enough time that next week we can do something interesting to set up whatever that stipulation is going to be. Based on what we saw on Monday Night Raw, it could be a submission match, which would be interesting, because when is, I don't know, and I'm not a wrestling historian, but when has Brock Lesnar ever tapped out? Is that something that ascends Cody to a level that other people haven't been on before? If he was to tap out Brock Lesnar with some form of submission, I think it's interesting. But I do think, I go on record here, I 100% think there will be a stipulation added to this match. There's no way SummerSlam rubber match between Cody and Brock Lesnar just goes down as a regular match. The only line of thinking that works if you're just doing this match straight up is that you want Cody to come out of this being able to say, one-on-one, man versus man, I beat the beast. That's it. That makes a little bit of sense. He can say, I didn't need weapons. I didn't need stipulations. I didn't need any gimmicks. One-on-one, I stepped in the ring and I beat the beast. But yeah, good. It was a good Monday Night Raw. Nothing wrong. I think the build to SummerSlam has been better than most builds in recent memory. And so I'm excited, which I'm not typically. I'm excited to get to next Monday and see what we run into next Monday. But what I did want to do is I need to drop I need to file a missing persons report. So CWC, I have a mission for you guys. I need to file a missing person report, and I need everybody to go out and investigate this for me, because I can't find the answer. I need somebody to tell me what is going on with WWE superstar Aaliyah. Where is she? She was last seen on September 12th, 2022, where she dropped the women's tag team titles. And since then, there has been absolutely zero mention of Aaliyah on WWE programming. So I need the CWC to go out, investigate, tweet at her, ask around, find out for me what is going on with Aaliyah. We need to make sure she's okay. So this week's Smackdown was another kind of off rhythm SmackDowns to me. If it was a heart, if SmackDown was a heartbeat, these are arrhythmias. These feel, it's not hitting that normal SmackDown comfort food feeling that I get on Friday nights where I'm just blown away by what's going on. I don't know if it's an oversaturation of the bloodline. I don't know if I'm just so anticipating LA Knight, but what we got Ridge Holland injuring another superstar. Whether it's his fault, whether it's not, it happened. It's a thing that's going to exist. The internet is going to do their thing and go after him. I tend to think that wasn't his fault. I don't think he did anything wrong. I think that the dude from Pretty Deadly over rotated, landed on his shoulder, fucked his shoulder up. But there's people on the internet who are smarter than me who are attacking Ridge Holland. Ridge Holland deactivates his Twitter, and the IWC strikes again, and they run straight through Ridge Holland and get him off of social media as they typically do. So, that is what it is. We got Zelina Vega versus Bayley, and Selena's kind of hit a wall there, losing to Bayley. But that all was just set up to lead to the Schatzi promo, where she seemingly had a mental breakdown and shaved her head. I'm a Schatzi fan. So anything Schatzi does, I'm all for it. I'm behind it. I think that I'm always rooting for Schatzi. I think she has all of the tools in the toolbox. I just don't think she's yet got them all firing in rhythm. And so I think if she would tighten the in-ring stuff up a little bit, I think that her character is one of the better characters in WWE. It actually has a little bit of design and purpose. I think that she's decent on a microphone. She hosted NXT Halloween Havoc. So I root for Schatzi. But seeing Schatzi do this and knowing the reason Schatzi did this just elevated her to another level in my book. Shout out to Schatzi. And if you don't know, she shaved her head because I believe, I'm not going to say exactly who, but I think it's her sister has cancer. So in support of her sister, shaves off her hair. And so now we're going to get a new version of Schatzi, which, let's do it. I liked the green hair, but I fully am behind what you're doing, Schatzi. So shout out to you. I think this is dope. I hope that, I hope this is the beginning of a bigger story for you that ends up being, not profitable is the word I was going to use, but just ends up being successful. So hopefully, good things happen to good people. That's a good thing that Schatzi did. So hopefully this all goes well for her. Santos won a fatal 4-way to become, I didn't fully understand what's going on, but it looks like Santos won a fatal 4-way to fight the winner of another fatal 4-way, but it doesn't feel like there's enough SmackDowns left to do that. Well, no, I guess there technically would be. There's 2 SmackDowns left before. So, okay. So I guess the winner of Santos's fatal 4-way will take on the winner of this week's fatal 4-way, and those two will meet up the night before SummerSlam. That kind of checks out. That seems to make sense. So that seems to be what's going on there. But let's talk about the things that really mattered on SmackDown. Let's talk about, we went another almost hour and 15 minutes before we got an LA Knight sighting. And that sighting that we got was LA Knight coming out to cut a promo to let us know that he was going to be in this week's fatal 4-way match to contend for the United States Championship against Austin Theory. Now we know where this is going. I'm not gonna bullshit, shoot the shit, play around. We know what's happening. This is LA Knight's moment. But this scares me a little bit, because if this is what we were in holding to, if this is what they kept him off television last week for, this booking is extremely suspicious to me. It really does feel a little bit like maybe they're not trying to hold LA Knight back, but maybe LA Knight is disrupting plans that were put into place. I honestly believe there was a point in time that Grayson Waller was going to be pushed towards the United States Championship. I think it's even as far as him being in that fatal 4-way match this week. I think that was Grayson's match. I think that LA Knight has thrown a wrench in what Triple H kind of had booked out for the next 6 months, and he didn't know what to do, and he had to keep LA Knight off the show while he kind of refigured what was going on. It's suspicious to me because if that promo that he cut this week is the same type of promo he could have cut last week. You could have LA Knight come out every week and hand him a microphone, and you're going to give the audience what they want. It's not really the in-ring stuff that sells us on LA Knight. It's his promo work. It's his charisma. So I don't understand keeping him off TV a week. So it's a little bit suspicious, but here we are. We're where we needed to be. You know, it's still a consolation prize. This still isn't what I want for LA Knight, but you know, I'm getting told by people that this is just a stepping stone, that LA Knight wins the United States Championship, keeps it until January, drops the belt, wins the Royal Rumble, then becomes World Heavyweight Champion. If that's the story, I'm in. I'm sold. But there's just something suspicious about, I don't know if they just think that, but Damian Priest is just as old. I don't know what it is. I don't know what the hang up is in WWE about LA Knight, but I don't like it, and it scares me. But hopefully come SummerSlam, LA Knight is United States champion, and I can just be a fan of the United States champion. Let's talk about the bloodline. Let's talk a little bit about the bloodline, because it's thrown in our face on Monday Night Raw. It's thrown in our face on SmackDown. It's the best story on WWE television. It's the best story in pro wrestling. It might be the best story on all of television, but it is thrown in our face quite a bit. And this week, the chapter of the Bloodline saga consisted of Jey Uso coming out to the ring solo and cutting solo. That doesn't work because it's not Solo Sikoa, but by himself to cut a promo. I saw something, guys. I saw something that scares me a little bit. I don't think Jay's ready to be that guy. I don't think Jey can stand in a ring by himself and cut a promo strong enough to keep the crowd interested long term. I'm starting to think that Jey Uso is just a very, very, very good supporting character to the Bloodline story. And I don't know, deep down inside, I don't know if Jey Uso is the guy to dethrone Roman Reigns. I was confident about this about 2 weeks ago. But seeing him in that ring by himself, having to cut a promo by himself, having to kind of work the crowd without his brother, without Roman Reigns to lean on, I didn't feel the spark. I didn't get that feeling deep down inside. I get a feeling when Roman Reigns is in the ring. I get a little bit of a feeling when Cody Rhodes is in the ring. I didn't get that feeling for Jey Uso. And it's not to say that he can't develop it, but the guy who takes down Roman feels like they have to be special immediately. And so there's a part of me that goes, I don't think Jay's that guy. I don't think that's the direction they're going. I think Roman beats Jey Uso at SummerSlam. I have completely flipped. I think Roman is going to hold the belt through WrestleMania. And I think I'm back on board to Cody Rhodes versus Roman Reigns Part 2. There's a part of me that feels like that might be the right moment. Cody might be the guy. I'm back in. I'm back in on Cody. And that's overreaction. I'm jumping to conclusion, but I just don't. I'm not. Someone's gonna have to explain to me why Jay's that guy, because it didn't look like it. It didn't look like it to me on SmackDown. We saw the formation of seemingly a new faction being born on SmackDown. Factions are fun. I like factions. I like when groups get together. I think it makes people more interesting. I think it gives purpose to a story, and I like the idea. It's been teased forever of a Hurt Business 2.0. I heard people calling it the Almighty Prophets, but it looks like Montez Ford, Angelo Dawkins, and Bobby Lashley are going to come together to form some kind of faction. I like it. It leads to, factions lead to breakups lead to pushes. And I think what you get here is Montez Ford will come out of this faction a main event guy. At some point in the near future, maybe WrestleMania, we see Montez Ford versus Bobby Lashley. And Montez Ford goes over, and that will be kind of the christening of the Montez Ford era in WWE, and I'm all about that. I like it. It gives Montez something to do in the coming weeks when he can't really be a part of anything else. And last but not least on SmackDown, we saw a clusterfuck of a main event between Bianca and Asuka, with Charlotte standing in the crowd because she bought a ticket, and then Io Sky standing in the crowd because she bought a ticket. And a lot going on in that match that I don't absolutely love. There's a part of me that honestly at SummerSlam, I would just rather have a number one contenders match. There's nothing wrong with the title not being involved in a match at SummerSlam if there's a number one contenders match on the line. I would rather have Charlotte and Bianca Belair in the ring rather than this triple threat that they obviously are teasing us. The only other part of me that kind of smells the positive in what's going on is I like the idea that if SummerSlam is setting up Asuka winning against Bianca and Charlotte, somehow Bianca and Charlotte cancel each other out, Asuka retains her title, and then Io cashes in, which leads to Io and Asuka doing a little title run thing for the foreseeable future, and Bianca and Charlotte doing their own thing, keeping each other busy while the title's, kind of occupied over there. I'm not mad at that. I can get that. That works. That's that. And so if it plays out in that fashion, I leave SummerSlam probably happy. But from just a pure, what I want to see as a casual fan in the ring, I want to see Charlotte on one side, I want to see Bianca on the other side, and I want to see them go at it for 20, 25 minutes. But if this is what I get, if instead this is what I get setting up, two branching storylines in the future, I guess I'm 100% okay with that. Let's talk a little bit about AEW. I don't have much to talk about, but let's see what we could talk about. Really only two things I want to talk about with AEW this week, and they're both, I see the positives in AEW right now, and that's what makes me laugh is we had a little incident in the Discord this week with someone who came into the Discord a little bit hot, came in a little aggressive, and basically the person came in and said, casual community is just an anti-AEW community. That's not true. It's not, what it is I have to be picky and pick and choose what I like in AEW. WWE, much more catered towards a casual audience. AEW, if you take a fine-tooth comb and you sift through it, there's stuff there for you. And one thing that I saw this week on AEW Collision was CM Punk put over Ricky Starks. And this makes me laugh because, the IWC has completely turned on CM Punk. The IWC, they follow their cult leader, Kenny Omega, and the Druids of Matt Jackson and Nick Jackson, and they follow those guys to the end of the earth, and they'll do whatever those guys tell them to do and what they want to like. And so those people have all turned on CM Punk, and they all said, he's bad for business. He's bad for the locker room. But here I am with my own two eyes. I can watch with my own two eyes. I just watched CM Punk get all the way to the finals of the Owen Hart Cup and then put Ricky Starks over in a very, very, very entertaining match. And I watch that and I go, that's what those guys, that's what CM Punk's supposed to do. That's what older guys are supposed to do. That's what I don't see Kenny Omega do. That's what I don't see the Young Bucks do. I don't see them build up other talent. And what it looks like to me is CM Punk has now gotten his own playground, and CM Punk is actually treating the people on his playground fairly. He's not a dictator of his playground, whereas on Dynamite, it still feels like this clusterfuck that Kenny Omega runs and everybody else just fends for themselves. So in positive light, I'm still a fan of AEW Collision. I still think that it's a solid watch. I enjoyed Ruby Soho and the Nightingale girl, whatever her name is, the one that won the AEW Cup. Enjoyed it. Wasn't my favorite match, but it worked from a casual point of view. I enjoyed it. Now this is where I will turn a little bit. The FTR match that started the show, that was a marathon. Not for me. Not my cup of tea. I don't like 3 out of 4 falls or Iron Man matches. Those aren't what I love. But what differentiates, going back to the Discord stuff and the hating AEW, what differentiates me and what I like to believe the community that surrounds me is that I'm able to dislike what I see on TV and still understand why other people like it. I 100% can watch that FTR match and go, if you like the X's and O's of wrestling and you like a long drawn out story, that is your cup of tea. I get it 100%. I'm not mad at it. It's just not for me. But what the IWC does is they have to tear that down. If they see that match, they have to tear that match down. So when they watch WWE, they have to, if they see something that might be good, but they don't like it, they're going to have to tear it down and find the negative in it. Whereas what I like to say, casual fans, we're able to watch it, not like it. We can even talk about it and go, here's what I don't like about this, and still continue, and continue moving forward. And it's not an aura that surrounds me that I just hate. I hate FTR. I don't hate FTR. I don't understand the allure of FTR. I don't understand the allure of a 1 hour and 15-minute tag team match. That's just not my cup of tea. Last thing on AEW, I'm still 100% sold on MJF being the best babyface and best heel in the business. Now, I got pushback from that this week on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok. Lots of people push back. He's not the best babyface. Who is? Who's the best babyface in professional wrestling? Because I don't think there's a clear-cut one name that you can throw out there that's just leaps and bounds ahead of everybody else. I think every name that you throw at me for best babyface, I can dissect and put MJF in the conversation for being on that level. Cody Rhodes, I can make an argument against Cody Rhodes. Bianca Belair, I can make an argument against Bianca Belair. She has a lot of positives, but there's a lot of negatives. So I think it's funny, and it was the IWC. They don't even like when I talk good about people in AEW because it's not the right people. If I don't big up Kenny Omega, they're not really there for it. It's why I still believe that MJF jumps to the WWE ship, even if I don't think that's what's best for him. I think just from a fan base situation, I think MJF makes that jump. All right, so I want to do a quick poll here. This poll will be posted on Twitter and on YouTube as a YouTube post. The poll of the week this week is, who is better right now, Austin Theory or Grayson Waller? And who's better right now and who has the better future ahead of them? All right, so coming out of that AEW topic, I think this is the perfect opportunity to jump into the topic of the week, which falls right in line with what I was talking about a minute ago, and that is the last week or so, I've been challenged quite a few times in the comment section on TikTok and in YouTube about people going, NerdyD, how can you call yourself a casual fan? And I think that's an interesting question because I guess I can see, I am somebody on the internet arguing a point of view, which in turn is the spirit of what the IWC is. But I think that the problem is with IWC, they can't see the deeper relationship that comes with being a casual wrestling fan. There are characteristics that I believe I possess. Now, yes, did I see an opportunity to jump on a microphone and talk about wrestling from a casual standpoint? Sure. Does that force me into being a little more in the know about wrestling? Sure. Does it force me to watch wrestling on a more consistent basis? Sure. All things that I don't necessarily believe line up with the casual fan. But at the end of the day, I believe that my opinion tends to mirror more what the people who watch casually tend to feel. And so I put together what I believe are the core elements that make somebody a casual wrestling fan versus what immediately inserts somebody into the IWC. And there's definitely crossover. There's definitely crossover in what I believe, but here, let me break down how I believe this works. Why I believe I'm a casual wrestling fan is, number one, because I am focused solely on the entertainment that comes from watching wrestling. Watching wrestling for me is only supposed to be fun. It is not supposed to make me mad. It is not supposed to make me sad. It is supposed to be fun. I'm not trying to give in-depth analysis on the X's of O's of what these guys are doing. I'm not trying to tell them how to do their job. I am giving, on a weekly basis, a casual fan's point of view. I am speaking as a fan, not as a wrestling expert. I'm not part of the media. I'm not an expert. I'm not an ex-wrestler. I am a fan who voices his opinion, and in turn, I think that I am a casual fan because I don't research technique. I don't want to know the proper way to do a power bomb. I have never explored the opportunity or option to become or pursue any type of wrestling training, which I would say a lot of people have done. And I think that when you take that step, you definitely become a hardcore IWC member. Now, I also know that I have a very flexible viewing of pro wrestling. Do I watch most of the WWE? Sure. Most of it I do. There are times I miss a Smackdown. If my kid has something to do, there's no chance I'm watching wrestling. I'm going to do that. It's not an appointment in my calendar that I can't miss. Now, because I have a show, sure. Yeah, I watch more than most now. But that's because I have an obligation to talk about it to the people who listen to this show. That's it. I don't watch AEW. I mean, very rarely do I watch Dynamite. I typically fast forward through Collision. Lots of times I fast forward through Monday Night Raw. If you're hardcore, if you're IWC, you need to see every breathing moment of every show. I would say that low involvement. I have a low involvement in the internet community. I'm not commenting on other people's posts. If you go on TikTok, I have absolutely never stitched somebody's video. I've never duetted somebody's video. I don't listen. I listen to We Too Deep's podcast occasionally, but even then, I try not to listen to a ton of wrestling podcasts because I don't want my opinion to be swayed too much, but also just because I have a limited amount of time in a week and I can't dedicate that much to wrestling. While I am critical of wrestling, I don't think I'm deeply critical of the X's and O's or wrestling styles or things like that. Yeah, I don't like the people being dropped on their head, but I think that makes me a casual. And the argument that I see the most is collecting memorabilia makes you a hardcore fan. I have a couple of belts that I've bought while my kids were with me. To me, the ultimate thing is this is a family event for me that turned into a podcast. The difference is the things that make somebody a hardcore fan and the people that like to come after me is they offer you technical analysis. They break down the matches from the X's and O's, right? They have an active online presence. They're in the forums. They're debating. They're discussing. We Too Deep. I love you, man. But I watched your brother's video. And it was this attack on me and the casual community, and I felt no reason to respond. If he doesn't like what we say, don't listen to it. What that is the core of the IWC is needing to engage and needing to argue and needing to fight back. I don't feel that need. I have my audience. I have my platform. I speak on it, and I don't step outside this box, right? The IWC also, it's that detailed knowledge, that deep understanding of I tell y'all guys all the time, I don't have a history of wrestling. I saw in the Discord, they wanted me to do an all-time Survivor Series draft. I don't have that kind of knowledge to go back and dig into like a memory bank of like I watched in the Attitude Era. I watched a little bit in 2009 to 2013. And then I've become probably the most involved I've ever been in the last 2 years. But I don't have this deep, I don't watch documentaries. I don't know about Ric Flair that much. I know about The Rock. I know about Stone Cold, but I don't know much about Hogan. And so to me, that's the difference. And I think the other difference is like insider terminology. You guys don't really hear me use the word mark. I say things like going over, but I don't have a deep vocabulary of wrestling. I don't have insider terms. I don't speak like Jim Cornette. I may get upset like Jim Cornette, but I don't speak like him. I don't speak from an insider's knowledge. And that's what I think is the biggest difference is, and why I'm able to continue to call myself a casual fan is I just retain a casual mentality. And I don't know, you guys can tell me if that's wrong, but it really does feel like I'm different from most people who have wrestling podcast in the sense that like it's really not that serious to me. Now there's times in like trying to come up with like how this podcast was coming to be and when I was building it that I would get lost and think, oh fuck it, I'm gonna be Skip Bayless and I'm just gonna say everything. And so I fell into that. There's times I've teetered into that. There's crossover, right? There's generalizations of what makes you IWC and what makes you casual. But for the most part, I've settled in. The people in our community, you can tell it's a casual wrestling community. We talk about football. We talk about food. We talk about music. Wrestling is just one aspect that has brought us together to create the casual community. So I know that's not a wrestling rant, and there's probably people who turn this off at this point, but I just needed to get my piece out about that. Now we can move forward. Let's jump into this week's Discord question, which comes from DJ Wavy D. So DJ Wavy D asks, what are your guys' thoughts on WWE having a 1 to 2 hour weekly show just dedicated to the women's division to build it up similar to what 205 Live did a couple years ago? I don't know, it's been a while now since 205 Live. It's interesting. I think I've talked about this before, but I like to revisit things as as time kind of takes a toll on my thought process, and I've watched more wrestling and I've watched more women's wrestling, and I think I have a better understanding of how, if I was doing this, I would actually do this. And one thing that I think I find interesting, and this is from interaction with other people, is I just don't think there is enough of a fan base for all women's wrestling to put a show on network television. And that's unfortunate. That's not my opinion. I'd watch it. But I do believe that in speaking to people in the wrestling world, I don't know how many people tune in for a 2-hour all women's wrestling show. That's unfortunate, but I think that's the truth. So here's the fix for that. Why not do it on YouTube? Why not take some time and build a show on YouTube similar to what you did with the Facebook Mixed Tag Team Tournament and actually build up some stories for some of these women's wrestlers? The women's division just has a lack of storytelling. That's the only problem. I think the talent is 100% there, especially in the top half of that division. I'd argue that the talent, charisma, personality, character, it may be better than the men's division. The problem is there's a big gap in between that. There's a big gap between the top 6 or 7 women and then the rest of the roster. And so the rest of the roster could benefit from a secondary show that was on YouTube that you could tune into that didn't really affect the major storylines that were playing out on Raw and Smackdown, but where characters could be built and stories, people could be given backstories, and it would benefit people like Nikki Cross, who could more get over her kind of crazy character, or Doudrop could rack up some wins and actually be dominant in a place that didn't directly affect what was going on Raw, or Mia Yim, who was a character who seems like could be extremely interesting, but yet she's been relegated to being, just a piece of AJ Styles, little group he has going on. And not that that's a bad thing. She's incredible at what she does, but I just think Mia Yim has the talent to do much bigger things. They're just, you got to have an opportunity. And I get the argument can be made, AEW Dark, it exists. That's what it exists for. And it doesn't get a lot of love. I would argue that I think WWE fans would be a little more prone to tune in. Now, in saying that, I look at it and I go, that's kind of what main event already is. Main event is an opportunity to put talent that don't make the main show onto a wrestling platform where people can choose to watch. They just, most don't. And there is a lot of women's wrestling that happens on main event that I never see because I don't go tune in. Problem for me, I don't really know where to watch main event. I think it's a Hulu thing. I don't have Hulu. So if you give me that kind of hurdle, yeah, I'm probably never going to watch it. I don't know if there's another place I can watch main event, and I'm really not looking to watch like on the network a month prior's main event. If it's not keeping me like up to date, I don't really want to watch it. So I don't know. Like there's a part of me, I went down a rabbit hole for a couple weeks and watched WoW wrestling. And I got really infatuated with how good it was for what it was. And I think that, man, if you could take the people who produce WoW wrestling and give them that 10 through 25 talent of WWE to produce the same style of show, man, you could have something there. Because they're doing it with indie talent. So if you gave them some of these people who are incredibly talented, you could have something there. The problem is I just don't know that WWE in their business model sees the benefit of doing that. I think, to be honest, the better option is the kind of Total Divas route. And I don't want to go back to Total Divas, but I like the idea of some kind of reality style show, something that's much less hokey and much less like Kardashian than Total Divas, but a show that features the female wrestlers behind the scenes, but in character. Have them stay in character. Do like one-off little mini-series on these wrestlers to build backstory, to build character, to give us a deeper look. Hell, this is the type of thing that could spiral off into men and women's wrestlers. I just think that, women's wrestlers would be a solid place to start. But the issue is that WWE is honestly just comfortable recycling the same 5 or 6 female wrestlers over and over for us because we keep getting excited, right? They somehow keep selling us on Becky, Charlotte, Bianca, Rhea, Asuka, and people like that. And we keep getting excited. Ronda gets thrown in there every so often, but until we kind of resist those stories, that's what WWE is going to do. It's comfortable for them. They know they're going to produce big shows and big events, and so they continue to do it. It's just, it boils down to a lack of storytelling opportunities. That's what it is for the women's division. And I don't know that having another show would necessarily even do anything for that if it's produced like main event. Now, I do hear, this is a little bit of a transition, but I do hear the IWC bark a lot about how the AEW women's division is now it's on the level of WWE, or it's even better than WWE. I gotta be honest, I don't see it. I can't see it. The problem for me is any name that you call out from AEW, I can give you a comp that is probably even better in WWE. You yell Britt Baker, I would argue that Chelsea Green could be Britt Baker. She has all the tools in the toolbox to do it. She got kind of the same look. She's got kind of the same skill set. She's got the same charisma. So I'd argue that your Britt Baker comp is going to be someone like Chelsea Green. You yell Jade Cargill, I tell you that Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley are 1,000% better on the microphone, in the ring. Now, they're not booked better. Jade Cargill was booked extremely well. But if either Bianca Belair or Rhea Ripley were booked the way Jade Cargill was, with the level of protection, they'd be megastars right now. Then you go what? Ruby Soho and Toni Storm. We've seen those are middle of the pack WWE stars. Saraya, she's a star. So I don't even want to say anything about her. I think that she is a talent on that top level as like WWE. I just think that, injury and lack of superstar power in AEW holds her back a little bit. But like I get it. All the pieces are there to run a women's only show. I just don't know that the predominantly male audience of WWE would accept it as a weekly thing they tuned into. Maybe a premium live event would be fun. Maybe we start with like a quarterly premium live event for the female wrestlers would be a lot of fun, but I just don't know. I don't know. And it's unfortunate, but I don't know if you could get people to tune in on a weekly basis. Let me know in the comments if you would watch an all-female WWE show. I feel like I'm running way over time this week, so let's burn through the news this week and we have a special segment from We Too Deep. Let's start with Dominik Mysterio won the WWE NXT North American Championship tonight. He won it earlier tonight. In a thrilling WWE NXT main event, Dominik Mysterio shocked the world by winning the NXT North American Championship from Wes Lee. Despite a knockdown drag-out ball where Lee displayed incredible resilience, the tide turned when Rhea Ripley, who was at ringside supporting Mysterio, knocked out Lee with her own Women's World Championship. This out-of-nowhere twist allowed Mysterio to pin Lee, scoring the upset victory and securing the North American title. Shout out to WWE. How fucking sneaky is this move? How sneaky is it that WWE found a way to relegate Dominik Mysterio back down to NXT without actually relegating Dominik Mysterio back down to NXT? This is, and this is funny. This isn't an argument for everybody who gets mad when I talk about Dominik Mysterio, but this is reality, guys. That's where Dominic belongs. Dominic gets the boos on the main roster. Sure. He does the thing where he incites it by dropping the microphone and it gives everybody the reaction to boo. Yeah, that happens. But the talent level and the charisma level that Dominik Mysterio possesses is not on the level of main roster superstars, so he needed a run in NXT. And this was the most absolute clever way to do that. Give him a title. It makes him extremely relevant. It'll make him even more hated on the main roster. And he can go back to NXT on a weekly basis and not seem like he was relegated to NXT, but just seem like he's kind of an invasion style character. Shout out to WWE for an impressive, just an impressive mindset to get Dominik Mysterio the reps that he needs to actually live up to the potential that everybody says he has. LA Knight's Smackdown promo is doing insane numbers on social media. So even without competing, LA Knight made waves with his promo about the United States Championship. It grabbed a whopping near 4 million views in under 24 hours. That's why I say he's bigger than the United States Championship. LA Knight's bigger than the United States Championship. And I'm okay if that's just a step in the progression to get LA Knight to a world championship, but he's bigger. He's bigger than what WWE is giving him right now. And so the question I have to ask that I want people to answer for me, what is the ceiling for LA Knight? What is LA Knight's potential? At his age, how far can LA Knight go? We know he's probably going to be United States champion. Can he be a world heavyweight champion? And can he ultimately win the biggest prize in WWE and become the WWE champion? I think time will tell. I'm not ready to jump in. I think if I'm being honest, I think World Heavyweight Championship is the top of the line, but I hope he breaks every glass ceiling, grabs every brass ring that Vince McMahon and Triple H put in front of him. Tony Khan provides clarification on AEW's banned move list. So All Elite Wrestling has decided to scrub up a little bit, introducing a new set of rules that bans moves like unprotected chair shots, head strikes, shots to the back of the head, among others. They're also introducing a list of pre-approved moves, or moves that must be pre-approved, which include high-risk dives and using weapons in a match. AEW's president, Tony Khan, announced, no biggie, he believes it's more of a guideline for the referees and for the wrestlers and won't significantly alter the AEW's hard-hitting product. Looking at this list, bumps on the ring and apron or outside the ring, getting that pre-approved, that's fine. Nobody's going to say no to that. Any spot with tables, ladders, or chairs, I feel like somebody should know you're going to do that. Pile drivers, hurricanranas, sit-down drivers, sure, that makes sense. Weapons and throwing objects. It feels like I get that they don't have like a mainstay writing team, but it just feels like these type of things should be approved by somebody. Choking with hands or weapons, high-risk dives and top rope moves, bleeding on purpose, injury spots, brawling in the crowd, and any spot involving non-wrestlers like referees and managers. Let's be honest for a second. Like, IWC, remove your heads from up your ass. That's all shit that should have been happening before. None of that says they're not allowed to do it. It just says you got to talk to somebody before you get dropped on top of your head, Kenny Omega. That's all this is saying. I find it a little funny. I do find it a little funny that AEW is just slowly morphing into WWE. First, they took away the blood. The swearing. Remember? It was a couple months ago that they said, hey, we can't swear so much on TV. Now, they're taking away the violence. They're going to, we're going to cool it on the blood. We're going to cool it on the headshots. We're going to cool it on being dropped on your head. Already, the network is calling for more premium live events or pay-per-views. It feels like what the network wants is WWE 2.0, and it feels like Tony Khan is obliged to give it to them. WWE reportedly had plans for another Bray Wyatt faction earlier this year. Before Bray Wyatt's unexpected removal from WWE TV due to an undisclosed illness, the WWE had plans for him to head up a new style version of the Wyatt family. This revamped faction was rumored to potentially include Bo Dallas, Eric Young, and even Alexa Bliss. The game plan took a major hit, though, with Wyatt's illness, Bliss's announced pregnancy, and Young asking for a release as he wasn't keen on working with Vince McMahon. So I believe about 50% of this story. I believe that there was a faction coming to play. I think we all kind of saw that taking place. I talked about it last week. I believe that Eric Young changed his mind and said, I don't want to work if Vince McMahon's here. It's obvious Alexa Bliss got pregnant. I just don't think Bray Wyatt's sick. I think Bray Wyatt is a victim of circumstance. I think he had this thing all planned out. And like I said before, I think that he just never could get it all. There were too many moving pieces and he couldn't get everything to come together at once. He couldn't get all of the names he wanted. I don't think he I assume stuff fell through. WWE came to him and goes, we don't have those guys. We can give you, here's a list of names. I assume that Bray went, I don't want any of these people. I have what I want to do. They've created an impasse. And I think that right now, ultimately, there's probably a conversation going on between WWE and Bray Wyatt trying to figure out who are the perfect 6 wrestlers or 5 wrestlers to put together. We know it's going to be Bray. It'll be Bo Dallas. Are we waiting on Alexa Bliss? That could be a possibility, right? We could, she's well into her pregnancy. So what, 6 months from now? She rehabs a couple months, gets back into shape. And what? I mean, post WrestleMania, we could see a new Bray Wyatt faction. That seems like it makes sense. It's interesting, though. That puts a little more clarity in the situation for me. Saraya claims Triple H had confusion surrounding her WWE release. So Saraya, who formerly was known as Paige in WWE, has opened up about her exit from WWE in July of 2022. In a chat with Inside the Ropes, she shared how WWE didn't renew her contract with no hard feelings attached. But it seems that there were some miscommunications. Apparently, when Triple H took over after Vince McMahon's temporary retirement, he was clueless about Saraya's exit, but Triple H extended an open invitation for a return. This tells me 2 things. One, Saraya basically comes out and claims that there was an open door return, that Triple H and her had a good conversation. Then her day one on AEW went out and took a big shit on WWE. Like, that feels a little ungrateful to me. Like, let's be honest. If this is an alleged conversation, it really took place, who knows? But to like have them go, oh man, sorry, we really would have liked to have kept you, or Triple H at least to say that. And then she goes, yeah, no, cool. Great. The door's open. Boom. Goes out in AEW. The adrenaline's flowing and goes, hey man, fuck WWE. That seems very ungrateful to me. I'm sure though it was an adrenaline thing and it probably wasn't her intention. The crowd starts cheering and you're like, hey, let's shit on the other team. I think that's what happens a lot of time in AEW. The second thing it tells me, I think there's a chance that like the structure of WWE is not as organized and well oiled as we all like to believe that it is. I like the communication between Triple H and Vince McMahon. It doesn't sound like it's as like tight as we think it is. It feels like to me Vince just inserts himself into places without ever acknowledging Triple H, and I gotta wonder how long could Triple H, put up with that kind of shit? Like, how could Triple H not know that Paige's contract wasn't renewed? That feels extremely weird to me. Let's get out of here by doing, we normally right here, we would drop our Power 10, but this week instead, I'm going to have, or right here, We Too Deep, so kindly offered to make me a video on the top 5 reasons we should all be watching NXT right now, because I'm guilty of not watching it. So he's going to try and convince us all that we need to watch NXT so that in the future we can do a NXT Power 10. So shout out. Here we go. We Too Deep. You take it away. And when we get back, we'll wrap things up.
What is up, everybody? This is We Too Deep with another segment here. NerdyD was going to do, a Power 10 list that he's been doing, and he was going to do it for NXT, and we've come to realize, and I'm sure he's probably explained this as well, we've come to realize not a lot of people in the casual wrestling community Discord who vote on these, the top 10, watch NXT. So I pitched out this idea of, why don't I just tell the listeners who may or may not watch NXT why they should watch NXT. And in doing so, I'm going to name out some people as well in explaining this, who you should look out for in NXT and who you should, go in and watch. So I have 5 reasons why you should watch NXT, and I think these are 5 good reasons that are, I've said time and time again on the Slapping Meat Wrestling podcast, which is my show, I think NXT is the best product in WWE. And so I have 5 reasons for that. The first is gimmicks. They are the best at doing gimmicks. You think of someone like Tony D'Angelo and Stax Lorenzo, who just have that awesome sort of mafia-esque gimmick going on, and you think of someone like a Tiffany Stratton who plays a character. Every single person on the roster has a character that they're playing, even if it's a heightened version of their real self. You have Schism, you have like the Creed brothers, and you have Kiana James plays a gimmick, Briggs and Jensen and Fallon Henley, the sort of country gimmick that they have going on there, right? And so there's a lot of people who play characters that I feel like if you're into that thing, that type of stuff, if you care about storytelling and just sort of character development throughout a story, NXT does that very well. It also, so reason number 2 is it's a mix of everything. So you'll hear from people in the IWC who talk about style of wrestling. And it is important. It's not the most important thing. But NXT is a mix of everything. There's something for everyone. You like tag team wrestling? I believe NXT's tag team division is the best in the company. You like women's wrestling? It's there. It's very well produced in the NXT women's division. You like my podcast is called the Slapping Meat Wrestling Podcast. It comes from Big E's quote, "Big meaty men slapping meat." If you like to see that, it's there in NXT. If you like to see the more acrobatic flippy stuff, there's it. You got it in NXT. There's just a little bit of everything for everyone. And I think that's the way you should produce a wrestling show. You shouldn't just do one type of wrestling, and NXT does everything very well. Number 3. Now, this may just be my opinion. Other people may disagree, but I feel that it doesn't try too hard to be what it's not. NXT understands what it is. It's the third brand. It's the developmental brand of WWE, whether that means completely developing a new talent who has never done the world of professional wrestling, or if it's taking someone like a Baron Corbin and developing a new gimmick. I like the potential of sending down some superstars and developing a new gimmick from them. And then number 4, the timing of the show. It's the perfect 2-hour mark, but the pacing is more so what I'm talking about with timing. It doesn't feel like any segments drag on. Now, this isn't true all the time. I think it's hard to produce a wrestling show week in and week out that doesn't drag on at times. But the pacing of the show for most weeks, things don't take too long and things aren't too short to where it's not explained to the max potential of what they were going for with that segment. And so the timing and pacing of the show, it just feels, there'll be some Tuesdays when you watch that, an hour will be gone and it will only feel like 15 minutes. Whereas you get something like on Smackdown, which even as well as the segment was produced, as well as it was received, that 45-minute start to Smackdown 2 weeks ago with the Bloodline just felt like it took forever. If that irritated you, like it did me, and I loved that storyline, NXT goes down. It doesn't try too hard. It does what it knows how to do, and that timing is almost perfect for almost every segment. And then the 5th and final reason, which may be my favorite reason, is the out of the arena vignettes. I don't understand what's so hard and why the rest of the WWE, why Raw and SmackDown haven't done this more. But not every part of a story has to take place backstage or in the ring, right? There's no reason why the tribal court that was 2 weeks ago could not have been done on the island of relevancy, on a literal island where they had a literal court, where, right, I've even booked this in my head to where the Usos get to the meeting ground first, and when Roman gets there, you could thread that through the whole show. Roman gets there with 15 minutes left in the show, but Jey's sitting at the head of the table and starts to call out Roman when Roman tries to take the seat from him, right? You could have done it so much more well produced and sort of cinematic. And the outside of the arena promos, where I'm talking again, Tony D, who has in storyline been in jail for the last few weeks, and his vignettes outside of the arena with his protege, the underboss Stax Lorenzo. Or you're thinking of someone like Gigi Dolan's promos, who have had her sort of at the house she grew up in, talking about her childhood. And Kiana James has her little office where she, right, Fallon Henley has her family's bar that has been part of storylines before, right? And so the outside of the arena vignette where things don't have to happen in the arena. I love that NXT does this. I feel every company should do more of it. There's 110 more reasons if I had time to really sit here. These are the 5 core reasons. I'm gonna list my top 10 acts of NXT while I'm out here, and then list maybe a few more that could be on the list eventually. Carmelo Hayes and Braun Breaker, obviously, but Tiffany Stratton, probably the future of the women's division. Wesley is the North American champion, fantastic. On that line, Nathan Fraser, who is the Heritage Cup champion. I think he was trained by Seth Rollins at Seth Rollins' school. He's going to be a big deal in WWE. I have that feeling. The Creed brothers, who were sort of just removed from NXT, they lost. The loser leaves the NXT match. More than likely going to come up to the main roster. You won't really see them much. Ilya Dragunov may just be the top guy on the roster right now. He does that Japanese... He's more of a strong British strong style than Japanese strong style. But the British strong style, which I'm not a huge fan of because it is super dangerous, like Will Ospreay's Tiger Driver. But Dragunov does it so he's safe with it, and it's not like excessive. He does things that make sense in the ring. Gallus, fantastic tag team. Cora Jade, of course. Blair Davenport. The Schism with Joe Gacy, Ava, and I don't know the actual members of the... I think it's Rip Fowler and the other dude, I don't know his name. But the tag team part there. And then Chase U, which is one of those gimmicks, if we go back to point one, that just does fantastic. It's the comedy relief that you need in the middle of a serious show. And there's even, I've even talked with NerdyD before about Chase U could be like NXT's version, and then you graduate Chase U and graduate to the Alpha Academy when you get called up to the main roster. Things like that, if you could correlate that together, that would be fantastic. Eddie Thorpe, someone else you have to look out for. Von Wagner's story going on right now is fantastic. He's a free agent, though, so any day he could show up on a Raw or Smackdown if he wanted to. There's just so much. Kalani Jordan, when Sol Ruka and Nikita Lyons come back from injury, they're going to be there's just so much talent right now in NXT. I recommend watching it. And the cool thing about it is if you haven't started watching NXT, if you've never watched NXT before, or it's been a while since you've watched NXT, I believe maybe 1 or 2 episodes back. That's all you need to do to catch up. NXT, WWE as a whole does a very good job of making sure you're up to date with what's happening, and they recap everything. So if you do miss an episode, you're not really missing anything because you can just tune into the next episode and they'll show you what's going on with that story. So that's NXT's my favorite thing in wrestling right now. And there's just so much going on down there. If everyone on the roster in NXT stays on the roster for WWE, they're in great hands for the near future. They have so much talent on that roster that not everyone can be used properly, but it's fun, it's entertaining, and ultimately, I think, like I said, it's the best thing on the WWE docket. Every week, if you were to ask me what I look forward to watching the most, it would be NXT. So with that, thank you all for listening to my opinion on this. Again, just check it out. You can I have YouTube TV, so I can watch any episode. If you have Peacock, I think there's a week or 2 delay between episodes being uploaded. But honestly, I don't even think you have to catch up, like I said, and they do a really good job of catching people up to date with what's going on. With that, thank you guys again for listening here. Like and subscribe NerdyD's podcast first, and then you could find the Slapping Meat Wrestling podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well. I think it's on Google Podcasts as well. Again, it's Slapping Meat Wrestling Podcast. That's on Wednesdays and Saturdays. Also on Wednesdays, I release the Queen City Pro Wrestling 2K Sim promotion. We're going to take a break this week from it, but we'll get back up next week with it. You can go back and catch up on the 8 episodes you've missed so far. Yeah.
That is all I have for you guys this week. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel on YouTube or on your favorite podcast network. The casual community shirts are in, I would say, the late stages of getting dropped. It'll probably be 2 or 3 weeks, and I'll have an update on the t-shirts and merch. We're going to start doing the NerdyD show, but it's just going to be segments. It'll be short segments, and I want to bring people from the Discord into the show, and we'll just do like little one-off videos that'll get dropped on a like bi-weekly basis or maybe once or twice a month. Be sure to check out the Queen City 2K Wrestling promotion. The episodes are posted in the casual community Discord, and as always, I am the Notorious NerdyD, and we can ring the final bell.
Step in the ring, if you ready, let's go. Hey, casual wrestling community show. You already know, talking WWE. Keep it rolling and hosted by Notorious NerdyD. Dope show that you gon' find. Tune in cause it's online. Hit 'em with a figure 4 leg lock, power driver or clothesline. We bringing that heat like for show, but you